Supreme Chancellor Velthak the Eternal arrived at New Busan 3 hours after the planet began to glow. His personal ship, larger than any other vessel in the Council fleet, cast a shadow that covered half the colony. For the first time in 1,000 years, the ancient ruler had left his throne to see something with his own eyes. He stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking down at the impossible sight below. The entire planet pulsed with soft blue light, and energy readings showed power levels that matched the output of entire star systems. At the center of it all, human children played in the streets while their parents worked to understand technology that was older than most civilizations. "How is this possible?" he asked Ralvoth, who stood beside him looking shaken and confused. "I don't know, Supreme Chancellor. The moment the human children made their choice to stay, the planet's ancient systems activated. Our scientists say it's some kind of quantum resonance. The machines are responding to their willingness to sacrifice for others." Velthak had ruled the galaxy for so long that few things surprised him anymore. But this was different. This challenged everything he thought he knew about power, about survival, about the natural order of the universe. Down in the ancient chamber, Captain Yoon was learning things that made his head spin. The holographic displays now showed him the entire galaxy, with dozens of points of light scattered across it. Other Forgotten One installations that were starting to wake up. "It's not just New Busan," geologist Park Yun-hai said, studying the data. "Everywhere humans have colonies, the old defense systems are activating." Engineer Han Mi-kyung looked up from her scanner. "The network is trying to connect. If we can link all these installations together, we might actually be able to stop the Devourers." But Captain Yoon was watching something else on the display. The approaching dark ships at the galaxy's edge. They were moving faster now, as if they sensed the awakening of their ancient enemies. "How much time do we have?" he asked. Park Yun-hai calculated quickly. 3 months, maybe less. The first Devourer scouts will reach the outer rim systems, before we can fully power the defense network. On Earth, President Lee Min-ho was dealing with the biggest crisis in human history. The revelation about the Devourers had sent panic across the galaxy. Some alien governments were demanding that humans activate every defense installation immediately. Others were calling for humanity to be destroyed before they could make things worse. But the most important call came from Supreme Chancellor Velthak himself. President Lee. The ancient alien's voice was tired, old in a way that went beyond ears. "I need to understand what is happening. Your species has activated technology that we thought was just a myth." "How?" Dr. Kim So-young, who was sitting beside President Lee, answered for him. "Because we're like them, Chancellor, like the Forgotten Ones. We put our children's welfare above our own survival." "But that's irrational," Velthak protested. "Individual survival ensures species continuation." "Does it?" Dr. Kim asked. "Your species has survived for millions of years, but what have you built? What have you created? You've spent so long focused on not dying that you've forgotten how to truly live." There was a long silence on the communication channel. Finally, Velthak spoke again. "The Devourers, they're really coming?" "Yes," President Lee said. "And according to the ancient records, the only way to stop them is to power the defense network with beings who are willing to die for others. The Forgotten Ones built the system, but they're gone. We're the only ones left who can make it work." "What do you need?" Velthak asked, and those 4 words changed the course of galactic history. Over the next month, everything humanity had built over centuries of space exploration was put to the test. Human families on dozens of worlds worked alongside alien engineers to understand and activate the ancient Forgotten One installations. On New Busan, 16-year-old Nam Yu-jin had become something she never expected, a teacher. The ancient technology responded to her and other human children in ways the adults couldn't understand, so she found herself explaining quantum mechanics to beings who had been studying science for longer than humans had existed. "It's not complicated," she told a group of alien scientists who looked confused. "The machines work on choice, not power. You have to want to protect others more than you want to protect yourself." One of the scientists, a tall being covered in silver fur, shook his head. "But that goes against every survival instinct." How do you override millions of years of evolution? Yu-Jin smiled. You don't override it. You choose something bigger than survival. You choose love. The alien looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language, which in a way she was. But slowly, some aliens began to understand. On a few worlds, non-human parents who had learned to love their adopted human children found they could help, power the defense systems too. The ancient machines didn't care what species you were, they only cared about your willingness to sacrifice for others. Colonel Bae Dong-hyun arrived on New Busan with a fleet of Earth defense ships and 1,000 Dwar volunteers. All of them had come to help power the planet's defense installation, knowing it would probably kill them. But when they reached the ancient chamber, they found something unexpected. The children were there, led by Yu-Jin, and they had something to say. You don't get to decide for us, Yu-Jin told the adult volunteers. We understand what this means, we've always understood. This is our galaxy too, and we decide to defend it. Colonel Bae looked at the young faces around him, teenagers who should have been worrying about school and friends, not the fate of the galaxy. You're just children, this isn't your responsibility. Yes, it is, Yu-Jin replied firmly. Our parents taught us that when something needs protecting, you protect it. The galaxy needs protecting, so we protect it. It's that simple. Adults tried to argue, but the children had made their choice. They linked hands around the ancient control pillar, their combined willpower flowing into the quantum systems that would determine whether the galaxy lived or died. Dr. Kim So-young, watching from the surface through video feeds, finally understood what the title of their story really meant. They decide, she whispered to Captain Yoon, who was coordinating the defense network from the chamber. Not the adults, not the council, not fear or logic or survival instinct. They decide. The children decide to stand with us, just like we decide to stand with them. The moment of truth came 3 weeks later. The Devourer scouts reached the galaxy's edge and immediately began consuming the outer star systems. Entire worlds disappeared in minutes, their light snuffed out by the dark ships that seemed to eat reality itself. But when the first Devourer ship encountered a system protected by an active Forgotten One installation, something different happened. The dark ship hit an invisible barrier and stopped. Its hull, which had seemed to absorb everything around it, suddenly blazed with light as the defense network pushed back against it. For the first time in millions of years, a Devourer ship was forced to retreat. The ancient network came fully online just as the main Devourer fleet arrived. Dozens of installations across the galaxy, powered by humans who had chosen love over fear, created a barrier that the dark ships could not cross. On New Busan, Yu-Jin and her friends felt the moment. When the barrier activated, it was like a warm light spreading through their bodies, connecting them to every other human in the galaxy who had made the same choice they had made. Supreme Chancellor Velthak stood on his flagship, watching the impossible sight of the Devourers, being held back by technology his people had thought was just legend. Around him, his advisors struggled to understand what they were seeing. How are the humans powering something this massive? One of them asked. Choice, Velthak said quietly. They're powering it with choice. He opened a communication channel to New Busan, where Captain Yoon was coordinating the defense network. Captain Yoon, the ancient ruler said. The Council formally requests humanity's aid in defending the galaxy. The quarantine order is lifted. You are granted not just membership in galactic civilization, but leadership in our defense against the Devourers. Captain Yoon looked around at the children who had made this moment possible, then back at the communication screen. We accept, he said simply. But we do this as partners, not as rulers. The galaxy belongs to everyone who chooses to protect it. The barrier held. The Devourers, faced with the one force in the universe they could not consume, love freely, given, turned away from the galaxy and disappeared back into the dark between the stars. In the months that followed, everything changed. The Council restructured itself to include not just the ancient species who had ruled for millennia, but also the younger races who had learned what the Forgotten Ones had known all along. That true strength comes from choosing others over yourself. Human children became teachers, helping other species understand that survival wasn't about avoiding death, but about living for something worth dying for. And on New Busan, Nam Yujin stood with her friends in the colony's main square, looking up at stars that were safe because she and millions of others like her had made a simple choice. They had decided to stand. They had decided to fight. They had decided to love. And that decision had saved the galaxy. The alien fleet appeared in New Busan's sky like a storm made of metal and light. 12 massive warships, each one bigger than the entire human colony, hung in space above the planet. Their dark hulls blocked out the stars, casting shadows across the ground where families looked up in fear. On the flagship, Council Enforcer Ralvoth the Judge stood on the command deck, looking down at the human settlement through the ship's viewing screen. Such a small place, he thought. All this trouble, over such a tiny colony. Open communication channels, he ordered. Let's end this quickly. Down in the ancient chamber beneath New Busan, Captain Yoon Jaemin felt the entire planet shake as the alien ships powered up their weapons. The holographic displays around him were flashing with warning signals, showing energy readings that made his stomach drop. They're not here to negotiate, Engineer Han Mi-kyung said, watching her scanner. Those are weapons powered for planetary bombardment. Geologist Park Yun-hai looked up from the ancient control panel she had been studying. The defense system is trying to activate, but it needs more power. Much more power. Captain Yoon touched his communication device. This is Captain Yoon to all colonists. Everyone needs to get to the emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. But as people ran for safety above ground, Captain Yoon made a different choice. Instead of heading for the shelters, he walked deeper into the ancient chamber. Han Mi-kyung and Park Yun-hye followed him. Captain, what are you doing? Han Mi-kyung asked. Getting answers, Captain Yoon replied. He walked up to the central control pillar and placed his hands on the glowing symbols. If this machine was built by people like us, then maybe it will respond to us. The moment his skin touched the ancient metal, everything changed. Light exploded through the chamber, and suddenly Captain Yoon could see things that weren't there before. He saw the galaxy as the Forgotten Ones had seen it, full of species that loved their children and protected their families. He saw the Devourers too, massive dark ships that consumed everything in their path. But he also saw how the Forgotten Ones had fought back, using machines like this one, powered not by energy but by choice, the choice to stand and fight for others, even when it meant certain death. Captain, Park Yun-hai shouted, the defense system is responding to you. Above ground, Ralvoth's voice boomed across the colony through powerful speakers. Humans of New Busan, this is Council Enforcer Ralvoth. You have violated the evacuation order. You have 1 hour to surrender and prepare for transport, or this planet will be sterilized. In the colony's main square, people huddled together in small groups. Parents held their children close, trying to comfort them even though they were just as scared. Some people wanted to surrender to beg the aliens for mercy. Others wanted to fight even though they had no weapons that could hurt the massive ships above. That's when the children started speaking up. 16-year-old Nam Yu-jin stepped forward from where she had been standing with her parents. Mr. Ralvoth, she said, her young voice somehow carrying clearly through the communication system. This is our home. We're not leaving. More children joined her. Some were teenagers like Yu-jin. Others were barely old enough to walk, but they all said the same thing. They were staying. Ralvoth was confused. In all his years enforcing council law, he had never seen children stand up to armed authority. Usually, when faced with superior force, rational beings would surrender to protect. They're young, child, he said, his voice softer now. You do not understand. We have weapons that can destroy your entire planet. Your parents should evacuate you to safety. Yu-jin looked around at all the adults watching her, then back up at the alien ships. You don't understand, Mr. Ralvoth. Our parents taught us to stand up for what's right. They taught us that some things are more important than being safe. We choose to stay with them. In the underground chamber, Captain Yoon was learning the truth about the ancient defense network. The machines weren't weapons in the normal sense. They were barriers that could stop the Devourers from consuming everything in their path. But they only worked when powered by beings who were willing to sacrifice themselves for others. "It's not about dying," he said to his team, understanding, flooding through him. "It's about choosing." The Forgotten Ones understood that love is a choice, not an instinct. The holographic display shifted, showing him images of the Council's fleet above. But it also showed him something else, the approaching Devourers now, less than 4 months away from the galaxy's edge. Captain Yoon made his decision. He activated the colony's main communication system and broadcast his message not just to the alien fleet above, but to the entire galaxy. "This is Captain Yoon Jae-min of New Busan Colony. I'm speaking to Enforcer Ralvoth, to the Galactic Council, and to anyone else who's listening. On hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing to listen to the humans' words. You ask why we follow our cubs into danger," Captain Yoon continued, standing in the ancient chamber surrounded by the glow of awakening technology. "You demand we choose safety over our children, but you've never understood the choice we're really making." Above ground, Yujin and the other children listened to their captain's words with pride. This was what they had been trying to explain. That courage wasn't about not being scared, it was about choosing to do what was right even when you were terrified. "The choice isn't between safety and danger," Captain Yoon said. "It's between living as prisoners of our own fear, or living as free beings who decide for themselves what matters most." Dr. Kim So-young, listening from Earth, felt her heart racing. This was it. This was the moment when everything would change. Captain Yoon's voice grew stronger. "For millions of years you've believed that survival means putting yourself first. But the Forgotten Ones knew something you forgot. That true survival means being willing to sacrifice for something greater than yourself." The ancient machines around him pulsed with growing power as more humans throughout the galaxy heard his words and understood what he was really saying. "You want to know why our cubs follow us into battle? Because we taught them that love is stronger than fear. Because we showed them that freedom is worth more than safety. And because they choose to stand with us, just as we choose to stand with them." On the Council flagship, Ralvoth felt something he had not experienced in his long life: doubt. The humans' words were making sense in a way that frightened him. But it was what happened next that changed everything. Dr. Kim So-young's broadcast began reaching every world in the galaxy. The secret files about the Forgotten Ones, the evidence of the approaching Devourers, the truth about the ancient defense network, all of it streamed across galactic communication channels. "The Council has been hiding the truth," Dr. Kim's voice announced. "The Devourers are coming. The same force that destroyed entire galaxies in the ancient past is returning. And the only defense we have are the machines built by the Forgotten Ones, machines that only work for species like humanity." Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. But on New Busan, something else was happening. The planet itself was waking up. The ancient defense installation that had been sleeping beneath the colony for millions of years suddenly came to full power. Energy raced through tunnels that stretched across continents, lighting up systems that had waited ages for the right people to activate them. And in the main square of New Busan Colony, something impossible happened. The children began to glow, not with any external light, but with something that came from inside them. It was the same energy that powered the ancient machines, the energy of choice, of love that was stronger than fear. Yujin looked down at her hands in amazement, then up at the alien ships that suddenly seemed much less frightening. Around her, other children were experiencing the same thing. They were connected to something ancient and powerful, something that recognized them as the true heirs of the Forgotten Ones. "We choose," Yujin said, her voice now carrying across space itself, reaching not just the Council fleet but every world in the galaxy. "We choose to stand. We choose to fight. We choose to protect everyone we love no matter what it costs us." The other children took up the cry. "We choose, we choose, we choose." On his flagship, Ralvoth stared at the readings his instruments were showing him. The entire planet below was generating energy levels that should have been impossible. And at the center of it all were the human children. Their choice to stand with their parents somehow powering technology that had been dead for millions of years. For the first time in his long life, the Council Enforcer realized that everything he believed about survival and strength might be completely wrong. The countdown to the Council's ultimatum no longer mattered. What mattered now was whether the galaxy could learn what humanity had always known, that sometimes the most powerful choice you can make is to choose love over fear. The children had decided. Now it was time for everyone else to choose too. Captain Minho Park stood at the window of his command center, watching the stars. His defense station, Soul's Pride, floated quietly at the edge of human space. 3 years ago, when he first got this job, he thought it would be boring. He was wrong. The alarm rang through the station. Minho turned to his control panel where red lights flashed. His communication officer, Lieutenant Jamin Kang, looked up with worry in his eyes. "Captain, we have a problem," Jamin said. "The mining ship, Busan Hope, is not answering our calls." Minho walked over to the big screen that showed their area of space. The Busan Hope was a civilian ship that dug up metals and rocks from asteroids. It had 847 people on board, miners, engineers, and their families. "When did we last hear from them?" Minho asked. 2 hours ago. They were working on asteroid field 77 Alpha. Minho knew that area well. It was close to the border with Valthek space. The Valtheks were big reptile-like aliens who had been causing problems for humans for 3 years now. They called their attacks border patrols and safety checks, but everyone knew they were just testing how humans would react. "Send a patrol ship to check on them," Minho ordered. 20 minutes later, the patrol ship found what was left of the Busan Hope. The ship had been cut in half by energy weapons. There were no survivors. 847 people were dead, including 200 children. Minho felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had orders to follow. The orders came from Earth Central Command, and they were very clear. Stay calm, be polite, and follow diplomatic rules. He opened a communication channel to Earth. Ambassador Ji-won Kim appeared on his screen. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but she spoke with a strong voice. "Captain Park, I heard about the Busan Hope. I'm sorry for the loss." "What are my orders, Ambassador?" Minho asked. "Follow Protocol 7. Send a formal complaint to the Valthek government. Ask for an investigation and compensation for the families." Minho wanted to do more than send papers and make complaints. The Soul's Pride had weapons that could turn the nearest Valthek patrol ship into space dust, but he followed his orders. 3 days later, the Valthek government sent their reply. They said the Busan Hope had entered their space illegally. They said their patrol ship had no choice but to defend itself. They said humans should keep their ships where they belong. It was all lies. The Busan Hope had been in human space, following all the safety rules. The Valthek had attacked first. But the Galactic Council, the big group that made rules for all alien races, said they needed more proof before they could do anything. This was not the first time. For 3 years, the Valtheks had been attacking human ships and colonies. Each time, they had an excuse. Each time, the Galactic Council said they needed more evidence. Each time, humans sent polite complaints and asked nicely for justice. Minho knew there was more to the story. Sometimes late at night, he got messages from ships that were not on any official lists. Ships with names like Shadow of Soul and Hidden Dragon. The messages were always the same. "We are watching. We are ready. Wait for orders." He also noticed strange things in the supply reports. His station was supposed to be a small defense post, but it got shipments of materials that seemed too advanced. Power cores that could run a small city. Metal alloys that he had never heard of. Computer systems that were smarter than anything he had seen in civilian space. When he asked his supply officer, Lieutenant Heejin Yu, about these items, she just smiled and said they were backup equipment for future upgrades. On Earth, Admiral Soo-young Lee sat in a room deep underground. The room was so secret that most of the Earth government did not know it existed. On her desk were reports about every Valthek attack, every human ship lost, every life taken. She was not alone in the room. Dr. Kyung-ho Yoon stood next to a holographic display that showed weapons designs. These weapons could crack planets open like eggs. They could move stars. They could turn entire solar systems into weapons. How much longer do we keep pretending to be weak? Dr. Yoon asked. Until all our people are safe, Admiral Lee replied. The outer colonies are moving to safer areas. We tell them it's for their protection from possible future threats. They trust us, so they don't ask too many questions. And the Valthex? Let them think they're winning. Let them think humans are soft and easy to beat. When the time comes to show our real strength, the shock will be greater. Captain Wanbin Kang, Admiral Lee's aide, brought her a new report. The Valthek War Commander Thextal is planning something big. Our spies say he wants to attack one of our major colonies. Admiral Lee read the report. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were cold. Which colony? New Jeju. Population 2.1 million. Begin evacuation procedures. Make it look like a routine safety drill. And Captain? Yes, Admiral? Tell Dr. Yoon to finish his work on the gravity bombs. I think we'll need them soon. Back on Seoul's Pride, Minho received another report of a Valthek attack. This time it was a transport ship carrying medical supplies to a human colony. 15 people dead. The Valthek said it was another misunderstanding. Minho wrote another polite complaint. He asked nicely for the Valtheks to be more careful. He requested compensation for the families of the dead. He knew the Valtheks would laugh at his message, but he sent it anyway. That night he stood again at his window looking at the stars. His communication officer approached him. Captain, I don't understand, Jamin said. Why don't we fight back? Our weapons are good enough to hurt them. Minho put his hand on the young man's shoulder. Sometimes, Jamin, the best way to win a fight is to let your enemy think he's already won. Sometimes you have to be patient and wait for the right moment. But people are dying, I know, and that will not be forgotten or forgiven. But we must trust that the people making decisions know what they're doing. What Jamin didn't know was that every human ship in space was connected to a secret network. Every captain had sealed orders that they would open only when they received a specific code word. Every human colony had hidden defenses that looked like normal buildings. Every civilian transport ship had weapons that could destroy a battleship. Humanity had been preparing for war for 3 years, but they wanted their enemies to attack first. They wanted the galaxy to see that humans had tried peace, tried diplomacy, tried to solve problems with words instead of weapons. The Valtheks and their allies in the Galactic Council thought humans were weak because they didn't fight back right away. They thought humans were easy targets because they followed rules and sent polite messages. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In her embassy office, Ambassador Ji-won Kim looked at the latest casualty reports. 847 people dead on the Busan Hope, 15 more on the medical transport, dozens more in smaller attacks over the past months. She opened her secure communication link to Admiral Lee. How much longer? She asked. Soon, Admiral Lee replied. Our people are almost all moved to safety. Our weapons are ready. Our ships are in position. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being polite. Keep following the rules. Keep giving them rope to hang themselves with. And when the time comes? Admiral Lee's smile was cold as winter. When the time comes, we stop pretending to be polite. Lieutenant Hyun Choi never expected to change the course of human history while sitting at her computer desk. She worked on Research Station Gaia, a small outpost that studied space weather and tracked ship movements. Most people thought her job was boring, but Hyun loved finding patterns in data. For weeks, she had been studying the Valthek attacks on human ships. At first, the attacks seemed random. A mining ship here, a transport there, a research vessel, somewhere else. But as Hyun fed more data into her computer, a picture began to form. The attacks were not random at all. Each Valthek ship attacked from a different direction. Each attack tested different human responses. Some attacks happened when human patrol ships were close by. Others happened when humans were alone. Some attacks used heavy weapons. Others used light ones. Computer, show me response times for all human ships in the last 6 months, Hyun said. Numbers filled her screen. The computer had measured how long it took human ships to send distress calls, how long it took backup to arrive, and how powerful the weapons were that humans used to defend themselves. Hayun's heart started beating faster. The Valthex were not just attacking humans for fun. They were running tests. They wanted to know exactly how strong human defenses were, how fast human ships could move, and how humans made decisions under pressure. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was that someone was helping them. The Valthex ships always seemed to know where human ships would be. They knew which routes civilian transports used. They knew when human patrol ships would be far away. They knew too much. Hayun ran a new search through the Galactic Communication Network. She found records of routine information sharing between the Galactic Council and member species. The Council shared human ship schedules, patrol routes, and defense plans with other alien governments. They said it was for safety coordination. But Hayun could see that the Valthex got this information just days before each attack. The entire Galactic Council was helping the Valthex test human defenses. Hayun sent her findings to her commander, but she also sent a copy to someone else. 3 months ago, a woman had visited the station. She said her name was Captain Sarah Lee and that she worked for Fleet Security. She had asked Hayun to report anything unusual directly to her. Captain Lee was not on any official crew lists, but she had proper security codes. Hayun trusted her. 2 days later, Commander Taehyun Song received orders that made his hands shake. He commanded the defense of the Dokdo colony, home to 400,000 humans. The orders came from Earth Central Command, signed by officials he had never heard of. The orders were simple. Continue minimal response protocols. Maintain appearance of limited capability. Accept 23% casualty rates in non-essential sectors. Taehyun read the orders 3 times. Accept 23% casualty rates? That meant Earth Command was willing to let almost 1 in 4 humans die to maintain some kind of pretense. He called his aide, Lieutenant Seojun Park. Have you ever heard of Admiral Chen 7 or Director Kim Alpha? Seojun shook his head. No, sir, those names are not in any personnel files I can access. Then who gave these orders? Sir, I think there are things happening that we don't know about. That night, Taehyun could not sleep. He walked through his base checking on his people. These were good soldiers who trusted him to keep them safe. How could he tell them that Earth Command was willing to let some of them die? In the morning, he got his answer. Supply ships arrived with new equipment. The manifest said they were bringing standard defense upgrades. But Taehyun had never seen weapons like these. The energy cannons were 3 times more powerful than anything in the official equipment manuals. The ship armor was made from materials that could stop anything short of a nuclear blast. The computer systems were so advanced that they could track 1,000 targets at once. Where did this come from? He asked the supply officer. Earth, sir, from the Special Projects Division. I've never heard of that division. The supply officer smiled. Most people haven't, sir. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out. Colony governors received orders to conduct emergency evacuation drills. They were told to move their populations to more secure inner systems for their own safety. Yoonji Han, governor of New Busan Colony, did not question her orders. When Earth Command told her to evacuate 2.3 million people, she began making plans. Her people trusted her, and she trusted Earth Command. Why are we moving so many people? Her deputy Min Seo-jung asked. Earth Command says there might be increased alien activity in outer rim sectors. They want our civilians safe. But why all of them? Why not just the families in dangerous areas? Yoonji looked at the evacuation orders again. They were very specific. Every civilian had to be moved. Every family had to go to inner system colonies that were heavily defended. No exceptions. I don't know, she admitted. But if Earth Command thinks it's necessary, then we do it. What Yoonji didn't know was that her colony was one of 50 being evacuated. Across the outer rim of human space, millions of people were being moved to safety. They were told it was a precaution. They were told it was temporary. They were told many things, but not the truth. The truth was in a bunker deep under Seoul, where Admiral Soo-young Lee watched reports from across the galaxy. Her command center looked like something from a science fiction movie. Screens showed the position of every human ship, the status of every colony, and the movement of every alien fleet. Evacuation progress? She asked Captain Wanbin Kang. 72% complete. All non-essential personnel will be clear of Outer Rim sectors within 48 hours. Valthek fleet movements? War Commander Thextal is gathering ships near the Kepler border. Intelligence suggests they're planning a major offensive. Admiral Lee nodded. For 3 years she had watched good people die while humanity pretended to be weak. She had read reports of families destroyed, ships lost, colonies threatened. Every death had been necessary to maintain the illusion, but that did not make it easier. Dr. Kyung-Ho Yoon approached her desk. The gravity bomb tests were successful. We can move a star's position by up to 3 million kilometers. We can create solar flares on command. We can make any star system uninhabitable for exactly as long as we choose. How long to make the Valthek home system uninhabitable? With current solar activity? 100 years. Long enough for them to learn better manners, but not long enough to eliminate their species. Good. We're not monsters. We don't want to commit genocide, we just want them to stop attacking us. Captain Kang brought Admiral Lee a new intelligence report. The Valtheks are calling for a final test of human weakness. They want to attack one of our major colonies with their entire fleet. Which colony? New Jeju. They think it's still fully populated. Admiral Lee smiled for the first time in months. Perfect. Have we finished evacuating New Jeju? Yes, Admiral. The last civilian transport left yesterday. The planet is empty except for automated systems. Then let's give the Valtheks exactly what they want. A final test. She turned to Dr. Yoon. How many ships will it take to demonstrate our true capabilities? One should be enough. The Incheon's Resolve has our most advanced weapons. Captain Junho An has been training with the new systems for 6 months. And the rest of our hidden fleet? 2,000 ships all equipped with weapons the galaxy has never seen. All staffed with crews who have been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Admiral Lee stood up and walked to the main display screen. It showed a map of known space with human territory marked in blue. For 3 years, that blue area had been shrinking as aliens tested human defenses and found them wanting. Soon, the map would look very different. Send a message to all human ships, she ordered. Tell them to prepare for Phase 2. Tell them the time for pretending is almost over. On Research Station Gaia, Lieutenant Hyun Choi received a priority message from Captain Sarah Lee. The message was short but clear. Your analysis was correct. The galaxy will soon learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. Hyun looked out at the stars and wondered what would happen next. She had uncovered the truth about the attacks, but she suspected the truth was even bigger than she realized. Somewhere out there, humanity was preparing to stop being polite. The galaxy was about to learn why that was a very bad idea. Ambassador Jiwon Kim walked through the halls of the Galactic Council building with slow, careful steps. She had made this walk many times over the past 3 years, always to report another attack on human civilians, always to ask politely for justice. Today was different. Today she carried a briefcase that contained information that would change everything. Inside were videos, weapon specifications, and manufacturing data that had been classified at the highest levels of human government. Today she would stop asking for justice and start demanding it. The council chamber was huge, a crystal dome that could hold representatives from 847 different alien species. Some species looked almost human. Others were made of energy or metal, or living gas. All of them had one thing in common. They thought humans were weak. Jiwon took her place at the human podium. It was small compared to the massive platforms used by species like the Thraktari Empire or the Zephonian Collective. The message was clear. Humans were a minor species that did not matter much. The council speaker, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, called the session to order. The representative from Earth has requested emergency time to address the council. Ambassador Kim, you may speak. Jiwon stood up and activated her translator unit. When she spoke, her words would be heard in 847 different languages by every species in the chamber. Honored representatives, she began, her voice calm and steady. For 3 years, humanity has endured unprovoked attacks on our civilian population. We have lost ships, colonies, and thousands of innocent lives. Some aliens in the chamber made sounds that the translator marked as laughter. The Valtech delegation, led by War Commander Thextal, did not even try to hide their amusement. G1 continued. We have responded to each attack with patience. We have filed proper complaints through official channels. We have offered to negotiate, to compromise, to find peaceful solutions to our differences. War Commander Thextal stood up on his platform. He was 8 feet tall with scales like armor and teeth like knives. The humans speak of patience, but I call it cowardice. They are weak creatures who cry for help when strong species take what they need. Several alien species made sounds of agreement. The Nixari hegemony representative clicked his mandibles in approval. The Silicon Collective's spokesperson flashed lights that meant acceptable behavior. Juan waited for the chamber to quiet down. Then she said something that made everyone pay attention. You are correct, War Commander. We have been patient. We have been peaceful. We have followed every law and rule that this council has created. She paused and looked around the chamber. But you have mistaken our politeness for weakness. Today, that ends. She activated the holographic display system. The chamber filled with 3-dimensional images that no one had seen before. The first image showed a human ship unlike any in the official records. It was massive, 5 times larger than the biggest human vessel the aliens had seen. Weapons covered its hull, but they were not normal energy cannons or missile launchers. This is the HNS Soul's Fury, Jiwan said. It can compress space-time into a weapon. When it fires, it does not destroy targets. It removes them from reality entirely. The chamber was completely silent now. Even War Commander Thextal had stopped laughing. The next image showed a manufacturing facility orbiting a star. The facility was larger than most planets, with thousands of construction bays building ships at an incredible rate. This is Forge, Station Alpha, one of 12 hidden manufacturing centers. Each station can build 100 warships per day. We have been building for 3 years. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Representatives began calculating numbers in their heads. 12 stations, 100 ships per day, 3 years of construction. The third image showed weapons that bent the laws of physics, gravity bombs that could move planets, solar manipulators that could cause stars to explode, dimensional weapons that could make entire star systems disappear. These weapons exist, Jiwan said simply. They are operational. They are aimed at every species that has attacked human civilians. The Zephonian representative, a creature made of living crystal, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. This is a bluff. Humans do not possess such technology. Jiwan nodded to her aide, Lieutenant Jihoon Seo. He activated a new display that showed live footage from across the galaxy. Human ships appeared near every major alien homeworld. Not small patrol vessels, but massive battleships bristling with weapons. They had been hiding in dark space, invisible to alien sensors, waiting for this moment. Every species in this chamber now has a human fleet within weapons range of your homeworld, Jiwan announced. We are not bluffing. War Commander Thextal slammed his fist on his podium. This is a declaration of war. The Valtech Empire will not be threatened by primitive mammals. You are correct again, War Commander, Jiwan replied. This is a declaration of war, but not the kind of war you think. She activated the final display. This one showed casualty reports from every Valtech attack on human civilians. Names, ages, and photographs of every person who had died. 3 years ago, you attacked our mining ship Busan Hope. 847 people died, including 200 children. Last month, you destroyed our hospital ship Healing Light. 3,000 people died, including 400 children receiving medical treatment. The images showed families destroyed, children orphaned, communities wiped out. The cold numbers became personal faces, real people with real lives that had been ended. You have declared war on our civilians for 3 years. Today, we declare war on your military. But unlike you, we will give you one chance to stop this madness. Jiwan's voice carried throughout the chamber, translated into every known language. This is humanity's final warning to the Valtech Empire and any other species that has participated in attacks on human civilians. Stop attacking us, or we stop pretending to be polite. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species called for immediate sanctions against the aggressive humans. Others demanded proof that human weapons were real. Still others, the smart ones, sat quietly and calculated their chances of survival if they had to fight humanity. The Nexari hegemony representative screeched, "The Council cannot allow one species to threaten all others. This is terrorism." "Is terrorism to defend yourself?" Jiwan asked calmly. "Is it terrorism to protect your children from being murdered? For 3 years we have watched our people die while this council did nothing. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. We tried following your rules. Now we will try something else." War Commander Thextal was still shouting threats, but other Valtech representatives looked worried. They had seen the human ships surrounding their homeworld. They knew their military was not prepared to fight weapons that could bend space and move stars. The council speaker tried to restore order, but the chamber was too chaotic. Some species were already leaving, rushing to contact their governments. Others were trying to form alliances for protection against humanity. G1 waited for quiet, then spoke one more time. "To be absolutely clear, we do not want to conquer you. We do not want to rule over you. We do not want to eliminate any species from the galaxy. We simply want you to stop killing our people." She looked directly at War Commander Thextal. "Your empire has one solar day to recall all military vessels from human space and to announce an end to hostile actions against human targets. If you comply, nothing will happen to you. If you do not comply..." She let the sentence hang in the air. "What will happen if we refuse?" Thextal demanded. Jiwan's smile was cold as space itself. "Then you will discover exactly what human weapons can do to a star system. And your people will spend the next century learning to be more polite." She closed her briefcase and walked toward the exit. Lieutenant Seo transmitted a coded message that would be received by every human ship in the galaxy. "Politeness protocol is hereby rescinded. Weapons free. Rules of engagement are now in effect." As G1 left the chamber, she could hear the chaos behind her. Species that had thought humans were easy prey were suddenly faced with the possibility of extinction. Governments that had encouraged attacks on human civilians were calculating how to survive humanity's response. The Valthek war commander was still shouting about honor and strength, but his voice had changed. The laughter was gone. The confidence was gone. For the first time in his life, Thextal was afraid. Jiwan Kim walked out of the Galactic Council building knowing that she had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had tried being polite for 3 years. Now they would try being honest about their capabilities. The galaxy was about to learn the difference